What I would have done differently is probably with the photographer, because I wasn't too happy with the photos in the end, even though that was like one of my top priorities.
Hi guys, welcome to the Weddings Exposed podcast, the first podcast for the brides and for the wedding industry professionals.
We are Alexa Geibel and Kirill Brusilovsky, fine art wedding photographers from North Germany.
In our podcast, we are going to give many tips for the brides how to organize your dream wedding.
Our idea is to bring wedding industry professionals and wedding clients closer together and make them understand each other better.
We want to share experiences and learn from each other.
And now, let's rock and roll.
What's up, everyone? My name is Alexa Geibel, and today I'm here with my amazing co-host, Kirill Brusilovsky. And
hi there.
Hi. And we have a very cool guest today. We have a bride today, and she's going to share just her experience with us. And I'm really excited. What about you, Kirill?
What I'm most excited about is that she's neither my client nor your client at her wedding, so she can be, I guess, talking freely. We want to learn from her, we both of us, and also perhaps some of our couples.
And I'm really excited to know who sucked, actually.
Okay,
because I wasn't the photographer, so I'm okay to know who sucked the most.
Let's see how candid she will be. Just to introduce yourself, please tell us very briefly a few words about yourself. And how did you plan your wedding? When was it? How many people? And so on.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Anna. I'm 30 years old and I got married last August with not that many people. It was just about, I think, 50 guests, 60 if you include the children. So small wedding. And it was in the countryside. And yeah, very short preparation time. Well, I guess for what's the standard, because we only had 6 months to plan everything.
What was the difference between your expectations and how it actually got?
I think my expectation was that it was going to be easier to do. It wasn't going to be that much to organize. And I think I just thought it would come together more easily. And then we had to organize things right until the very last minute. And then, it was quite an eventful day. I mean, it worked out like I wanted to, so it was great. But I just thought it would be different, like the preparation.
What kind of main problems or struggles did you have?
I think in the beginning it was where to start, because you just decide to get married and then you don't even know where to start organizing because there's a million things to do. And then you have the main things that you need to worry about, like the location, photographer, and if you want to do a church wedding or not, and get an appointment and everything like that. And then when you do have these like big things organized, then there's more small things that come up, and then you take care of them, and then there's even more things that come up, and it's like that until the end.
It's like never-ending process. That's what I usually hear from the brides, right? It's just keep coming and coming and coming, more and more, and you just need to keep solving them.
Yeah, you never get to the point where you're like, okay, everything's done, and I'm just going to be excited for the day. Yeah.
But as you have become engaged, how well have you been informed? Did you have much idea about what the wedding is all about, what you want to do, or was it just a complete? Did you have to start completely from scratch?
I guess being a woman, you already always have sort of an idea what you want your wedding to be like, but not. You wouldn't go into detail, so I didn't know anything about wedding locations in the area. So, and there was only one friend that I had that had already gotten married. So she was the only one I could ask. And it was like, ask people you know, or check on Google and just take it from there and see.
So what was your strategy actually?
So we were pretty soon aware of the fact that we didn't want to get married in a church. So we needed someone to do like a different kind of ceremony. So that's what I focused on from the start, was to find a location and to find someone to do the ceremony and to find a photographer. And so I first reached out to my friend who's also from the area and said, do you have any ideas about where might be a good location? What can we do? And then she gave me 2 locations and we ended up going to one of them. So that was actually quite fast.
Did you have a common taste with your bridegroom? Actually, was it easy to find the common concept, or how did you share the tasks of preparation? Did you do everything together?
I think mostly I was the one doing things and looking stuff up, and then I would spend a lot of time researching, and then I would present my finds to him and say, "What do you think?" And then he approved or he didn't approve. I mean,
was he approving many things, or he was also disagreeing with you sometimes?
No, he mostly approved because
Yeah.
he already knows my taste, and the only thing I think for him is to try and tone it down a bit, because I would maybe go over the top a little bit more than what he would like.
In the beginning of the process, did you just sit together? You said, okay, this is going to be the budget, this is the concept of the wedding, that's how many guests we're going to invite, or you just started and then you just like went with the flow?
Yeah, to plan plan with the location, we had to give them a rough estimate of how many guests there were going to be. So we sat down and just everyone wrote down what their guests were going to be that had to be there. And then we wrote down which guests we might invite if we have the money or the space. But we didn't plan a budget at all. So we just said, try to keep it as low as possible, but we didn't have a specific number in mind. And we
Did you manage to keep it as low? Because the most people I know, including myself, you have just certain picture in your mind, how much you want to spend. And if you don't know much about weddings, every single point you actually end up spending more, like on a cake and on a dress and shoes and photographer or whatever. Was it also your impression, or were you almost were the prices expected?
Well, before I got engaged, whenever I heard people say how much they spent on a wedding, I said, that's crazy. I wouldn't spend that much. And then I thought you could do it for less, but yeah, I was proven wrong. So it was definitely more than what I would have said up front. I would expect to pay, but I still think we did all right with saving as much as possible. So I know people who spent like twice or 3 times as much as we did. So yeah, but it was definitely more than I thought it was going to be.
And was it a shock for you just to find out how much everything costs, like the wedding photographers, the dresses, or you were kind of prepared for the prices?
Yeah, I was kind of prepared, because for every point that you have to check off your list, you have to ask yourself, is that worth a lot of money to me or isn't it? For example, the DJ, I wasn't prepared to spend as much for because it wasn't that important to me. And then we did end up finding someone who was really cheap and good at the same time. So that was perfect. The photographer was something that I said I would spend more on, because that's something that you are always going to look at the photos. And the location, of course, that's what you spend the most on. So, the food and the location has to be good.
Were there any other things you have said, okay, this we'll save on these things, but we'll not save on that?
Yeah, so I really wanted a nice ceremony. And so if you just get married, by law, it's not that romantic. It's not a really long ceremony. So we had to find someone who would, do a ceremony. And that was quite an expense for us. But that's something that I said I wanted to do, because I really did want that nice ceremony in front of everyone. So that was one major point where we spent money on. And I think one other thing, for example, is the wedding cake that we had made by a friend. So we didn't spend any money on that. So that was something that we said we can live with, because we just have a friend that is a really good baker, and that's fine for us.
Yeah, that's really handy to have this kind of friends.
Yeah.
Like who can bake the cake. And what about the wedding dress?
Of course, it's important, but it wasn't very expensive, because I went to like an outlet store that sells cheaper dresses. And I said, that's where I'm going to start, because if I go to a store that sells expensive dresses and I look at one and I fall in love, then that's it. So I went to that store first, found the perfect dress, and then it was really cheap compared to what I know most other brides pay for their dresses.
Okay, so it sounds like you've had a pretty good idea, at least general, what are your priorities. I guess, well, from my experience, it's not always so. But if you compare it, so after the wedding, have you been right in every point? Did you feel that you made the correct decisions, or would you do something differently if you could go back?
Or you had any regrets, maybe?
I think mostly we made really good decisions about everything. So we were happy with the clothes, with the location, and the ceremony especially. I think what I would have done differently is probably with the photographer, because I wasn't too happy with the photos in the end, even though that was like one of my top priorities, to have.
So tell us more exactly, how did you choose and why do you think so?
So I didn't really have any recommendations from anyone, so I just went and Googled photographers, basically, and then there were a lot, so it was really hard to sort of navigate through that and see like who is maybe an option and who isn't. So I just
how many have you seen? I'm so sorry, don't want to interrupt. How many have you seen?
I think I probably looked at maybe 30, I'd say. Usually everyone has like a homepage that you can look at where they have their portfolio. And then, it just quickly got to a point where I had to look at the photos and say, okay, yes or no, because otherwise, you can't meet up with everyone. And so you have to make a decision. And then I had, I think about 10, maybe a little bit less, that I thought might be a good fit. And then I set up meetings with a couple of people, and then I just had a meeting with the first photographer, and he was the one we ended up choosing.
Were you fell in love with the pictures, or it was just, like easygoing person, you had a click? Like, what was the main reason that you decided to book that photographer? Or maybe it was also the price.
Yeah, I think it was for the wrong reasons, because it was a really good package deal for a good price. And then we had a meeting with him, and he presented everything and talked us through everything, and it all did sound good. And then, so in the end of the meeting, he said, okay, so shall we do it then? And he had a contract and asked us to sign, which we did. And I think in the end, I should have given myself more time, or we should have given ourselves more time. And when he said, so shall we do it? Do you want to sign the contract? We should have said, no, let's just think about it. Take a bit more time to do that decision. And it felt a bit like we were pressured into confirming that.
Did you already have the feeling, because somehow you were very methodic, so you actually said, okay, we'll look around and then look at the pictures and then make a narrow choice and then talk to people, and then you've arranged the meeting. So it was actually, from my point of view, very reasonable. And then you've been at his place or her, and you've seen the pictures, and everything looked fine, and the price also looked fine. So at which point did something go wrong, if you say so? So at what time, what have you done wrong?
So I think one thing that was a problem was that he didn't have a very extensive portfolio. And I think that's one thing you should ask for, like to have a look at plenty of photos and not just a selection of a few.
How many pictures did he have on his website? Did he have also like the full weddings coverage, or was it just, a few pictures from the couple photo shoot?
Yeah, it was just a few, I think.
Did he say how many years is he in the business, or what did the photographer tell about himself? I guess it was him. So
he has been doing it for years. So it definitely wasn't an issue that there was a missing experience. But I just didn't ask for more photos, and he had only, I guess, about maybe 30 or so on his website.
Were you in love with the pictures, or it was just, okay, that's okay, let's just give it a try? Or were you like, oh my God, I'm so much blown away, like I want exactly these kind of pictures?
No, I definitely wasn't. So it wasn't the style that I wanted, but I didn't figure that out until it was too late. So I had seen other photographers, but I hadn't found the sort of style of photos that I liked until after we'd signed with him already.
And then you found that kind of photographer?
Actually, was through my best friend who got married a month after me, and she showed me her photographer that she was thinking of booking and her photos, and that's when I fell in love with them and looked at the photos and said, oh my God, that's really beautiful.
What kind of style was it?
It was very, very natural, very light photos, like very romantic, with lots of light, and just very natural. And our photographer had more of a, like, he put his emphasis on contrast and lighter and darker colors, that sort of thing. And it just wasn't as romantic as I think what I would have wanted.
So weren't you happy just with the pictures? Like, weren't you happy with the style, or you also weren't happy maybe with the composition, like with the poses? Or was it just the style of the photographer that wasn't the right match for you? Or was it just the whole package in general? Like, you look at the pictures, you think, nah, I just don't like it. I don't know why, but it's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the photos when they were done and said, they're nice, but that's just what they are.
So it actually wasn't so bad. But this another photographer who you liked more. Was he also more expensive? Is it actually a price issue, or is it just an issue of taste, of looking at more portfolios?
Actually, if I may say that, I think like the photographer, probably he was really good marketer, like because when I have meetings with my clients, I never even prepare the contract. Maybe that's my mistake, but like I always find it's good thing that they just think a little bit, they just discuss it with each other. And then like 99% they always come back to me. But I think like, maybe he was just pushing, and you don't have any experience. Then of course you just sign it up and then you think, oh my God, what did I do? But then it's too late. I think that maybe could be the case, that you didn't have any time to think it through, like you say.
Yeah, I think that was the case, because he did actually say that he did describe his style and say, okay, this is what I do. And if you are more into like other pictures, then I'm not the right person for you.
Okay,
but
that's pretty fair.
I felt like I didn't know at that point what I was into. And also, I think he still should have presented more photos, like a more complete portfolio, so you would get more of an idea.
But he was actually the first person you meet in person, right?
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Okay.
What do you think you could have done differently? Do you think it's important maybe to look a little bit more, to check more photographers, maybe not 30, maybe 100? What do you think, like, what would you recommend to the brides-to-be to do differently in this case? Like not to make the same mistake.
I think definitely if you can ask for personal recommendations, like I said, from friends, because it was through my best friend that I found other photographers that I really enjoyed the style of. And also maybe just look at very different wedding photographs and discover what your style is that you want to have portrayed.
And how do you think should brides actually discover? Would you recommend to check maybe Pinterest or Instagram, just to get some ideas?
I think Instagram would be a good giveaway, because most photographers have so many photos already on their Instagram page that you can just scroll through them very quickly, and then you get a feel of, do you like the overall look of the photos, or maybe you don't like it as much.
What about the personal attitude, just besides the photos? Because I think it's also quite important, because wedding photography is really a special field. I guess it needs a little bit more than just being able to produce the photos. You have to also to communicate with the bride, with the guests, sometimes to be invisible, and sometimes, on the other hand, to be quite prominent, just to give the wedding couple an impression that somebody knows what he's doing.
It wasn't bad on the wedding day, so he definitely didn't feel overly present, and we never had any issues with him being there. So he was very nice, and we did get along. Because that's obvious from the first meeting. So if you don't get along with someone, you would notice by meeting them personally. But I just think maybe we should have given ourselves a bit more time after that meeting, and maybe met up with other people too, just so to have a comparison, and definitely take a bit more time to think it over.
So it sounds that our colleague has actually done nothing wrong. It was just that you haven't seen enough, so you were not pretty sure about the style. He has done his job and actually has delivered what he promised. It was just that your own perception has changed after you've signed the contract. Do I understand it correctly?
Yeah, because for me, it looks like she didn't know what she wants. And that's actually normal. If you're not a photographer, you have no idea about different styles.
Right.
Like you just want the photographer, but you have no idea what's going on. So I think like you just didn't know, right? You didn't know what you want, and that's okay. Like, I guess that was maybe the main problem. Maybe you didn't have enough research. You didn't check enough photographers to really have, because I think it's the most important thing. Like from my perspective, like you need to see the pictures, you just need to have that wow effect, and you just know that's my photographer. And then I think if you have this kind of feelings, you have this kind of expectations, then you cannot regret choosing that photographer, because you really click, with the pictures. And so I think that maybe.
Have you got all the moments which you have expected on the picture? Because we are talking a lot about the style, but it's also, of course, there are some things which perhaps sound quite odd for a photographer, but they are very important for the bride. So have you got actually everything captured which you wanted to be on the pictures?
I think it was probably all on it in some form or other, but there were definitely some photos where I looked at that and I thought, why wouldn't you have taken that from a different side, from another perspective, because it would have looked a lot better. And yeah, so it was there, but not all in the form that I would have liked. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a photographer, but I looked at some of the photos and thought, you know, that would have been so great if you had stood over there and captured that moment from a different perspective. And also, he didn't take too many photos for each pose that we took. It was like, we took one pose and then it was like, that's it, you know, click, 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 and we're done.
Yeah.
And when I compared it to my friend's wedding a month later, her photographer just really it felt like she took thousands of photos of each pose. And yeah, and that was a much better result for me in the end. Like
how many selected pictures did you get?
And how many hours actually did you book this photographer?
Oh, good question. So he was present for quite some time. I think it was 8 hours at least that he was there. And the later hours, he wasn't actively taking photos all the time because he put up a photo booth that the guests could go and take photos of themselves. And then for special moments like the cutting of the cake and the first dance, that's when he took some photos still. But it was definitely a long time that he spent there.
I'm always curious because you didn't have a wedding planner, right? You just did it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And how was it? Because when I work on the weddings and I see my couples, 99% of my couples, they're usually in stress, you know, like because they're just thinking about so many things, like, you know, who is sitting where and then where is the cake. What about you? Could you enjoy the day to the fullest? Like, could you leave that day? Or you had so many things going on in your mind, like, what do I need to do next? How was it for you exactly on the wedding day?
No, it was kind of relaxed. We did have time to enjoy the day, definitely. It was stressful up until the night before, but the day off, it was all good because I think we did a good job of organizing everything so that we didn't have to worry on the day itself about everything. But we did really stay up until midnight, I think the night before, because we wrote our own wedding vows and we did that like at 11 at night the night before, for example. So we did stress a lot the days before, but then
did everything go by the plan on the day?
Yeah, we didn't have any unexpected surprises or anything big go wrong.
And if you could do it now again, and with all that experience that you have, would you say to yourself, like, no, let's maybe save some money somewhere else and hire a wedding planner, or would you still do it all over just by yourself?
Oh, I definitely still do it by myself because,
really?
Yeah, because I think just hiring a wedding planner is also, it just increases your budget or the money that you spend in the end. And I think then I would have spent that for other things probably.
Like, for example, maybe makeup artist or photographer.
Yeah, the photographer probably.
The photographer. So now, based on your experience, like, would you pay premium? Would you pay maybe twice as much to the photographer that you really love? Or would you say, no, it's still too much money? And you would find a way to make a compromise?
I would probably pay more, yeah, because that was also one of the factors. It was definitely a very cheap package price overall, and I know others paid a lot more for that. So, like my friend, for the photos that I liked on her wedding, that was definitely.
So it was not just a question of the style. So actually, you liked the style of the pictures more, but they were also much more expensive.
Yeah, they definitely were much more expensive. I think she paid more to have her there for 2 hours than we paid for the whole day. So
wow,
definitely.
Wow.
Also.
Yeah, we're not going to reveal the names, but I'm actually curious to know who is that photographer who charges for 2 hours, that much money.
I was a little bit surprised. I wanted to ask you because you said that the DJ was not that important. To my experience, I thought that the DJ is actually, it's the basis of the party. And frankly, the majority of the DJs I have experienced, I didn't like a lot. So perhaps 1 to 10, once in 10 weddings, I see and experience a DJ who's really like makes an impression. So so you said that for me, it was not a priority. So how did it work out?
So I don't know a lot about music. So for me, it was like, anyone can make a playlist, that sort of thing. And I do know other people who the DJ was a number one priority for, because they said that if the DJ is not good, then there won't be a party. So I definitely know people who are like that. But I know my family wasn't gonna, dance through the night. So we didn't have that many people that really wanted a big blowout party. And yeah, I just wanted good music. And then I thought, it's not that important who you pick, just as long as there's someone who can fulfill guests' like music wishes and
play Helena Fischer. Because I always hear that every single wedding, always Helena Fischer.
No, I actually told him, the DJ before, no Helena Fischer.
No Helena Fischer.
Yeah.
So what kind of music style did you have on your wedding?
I don't even really remember, because
German Schlager? No?
A bit, but not the majority of it. It was just a good mix all throughout. And we actually ended up with a DJ that is in a band too, and he does like Elvis impressions. So he sang a couple of songs live in between making the music. So that was really, really nice.
Oh, really?
Cool.
Even though that wasn't anything we had wanted beforehand or expected, but then we met up with him and he said, I can do it if you want. And we said, yeah, why not? And that was really cool.
I'm curious to know why you didn't want to work with a professional makeup artist, because you said you did it yourself. Wasn't it really important for you?
Yeah, but I'm also pretty good, I think, at doing my own makeup. And I've had other people do my makeup a couple of times, and I ended up not liking it as much as if I would have done it myself. And that's not something that I was stressing about, because I just know I can do it in a way that I think it looks perfect.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm the same.
So actually, one of our mottos and our aims is just to make people learn from the experience of the others, and also from the mistakes. It sounds actually that you haven't made any major mistakes, and nobody sucked really. But for example, if your other friend comes to you who is planning to get married, and you would want to prevent her, or to prevent some mistakes, some failures perhaps, what would you advise to do or not to do?
Yeah, like I said before, I would definitely advise to reach out to as many people as you can who have gotten married, just to get personal recommendations and personal experiences, and yeah, just to get tips from people that you know and that you trust, and just to sort of be sure that you really know what you want before you end up booking something or arranging something.
I guess it's a good idea to know what you want, because otherwise you can't be happy, right?
But I guess it's also really hard. Like I said before, if you don't have any experience, how can you know what you want? Plus, we're women, like we almost never know what we want. And then it's always changing. Like one day you want a boho wedding, then on the beach.
I'm sorry, I also don't always know what I want.
Yeah, but like how should the brides know what they want?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what I want. I mean, approximately, but like, I guess it's really hard to know what you want, especially without any experience.
Yeah, so but I guess also in today's time, it's really easy to go out and get a lot of inspiration if you take the time for that via Instagram or Pinterest or any one of those sites. And you can, I don't know, save the pictures that you like, and maybe they will form just a theme or something that helps to guide you in the planning process.
Good advice. And what would you maybe advise to the photographers? Like, because you said that you didn't see so many pictures on the website, would you recommend to the photographers to put a little bit more pictures on the website to show different kind of weddings? Do you think, is it a good advice?
Yeah, or maybe if you don't want to put too much on the website, maybe bring a folder or, I don't know, a book that you have of your photos, but just make sure that you show enough, and not, don't just select like the 20 prettiest pictures that you've taken and say, okay, this is what I do, but I don't know, just really have an extensive portfolio. I think that would be an important. I know of other photographers that really came to the meeting with, a big folder where they had 2 or 3 complete weddings that they shot, and they asked the bride and groom for permission, can I show these to other people? And then they just had folders, and the whole content was the full wedding coverage, so they could look through them and see what do they do from start to finish. And that was something that I think was a really nice idea.
Yeah, I think for sure it's really important, because also because I think bride and groom, you guys, of course, you need to see if the photographer can take party pictures, the ceremony pictures, getting ready pictures. I think it's really important, of course, to show your work. So photographers, show more pictures on your websites.
Is it important for you how the photographer is presenting himself, how he or she dresses and behaves at the wedding? Is it an issue?
I mean, probably not beyond the normal interaction. Like, you know, if I have a normal interaction with you, I will probably already be able to tell if you look weird or behave weirdly. But the photographer is not someone who's really in focus at the day itself, I would say. So yeah, if it's just a good first impression, I would expect that they behave that way and look that way at the wedding too. And then, yeah, that should work out probably. I
Oh,
think.
but still probably no sandals and white socks, right, for the photographers. I guess that's a no-no.
I'm really happy that we could get some interesting insights, which are a little bit different from what we usually hear, because the perspective is a little bit different. So thanks very much for sharing. And
thank
I
you.
think I'm really confident that it is not only interesting for us as photographers to learn, to gain some experience from that, but also that it's very interesting for the future couples.
No, for sure. I'm pretty sure this episode is going to help for the future brides, because like I said before, many brides I know, they make the same mistake, you know, with the photographers. But I think photographer is important, and girls, when you hear that, just look a little bit harder, you know, dig a little bit deeper, check a little bit more websites, just find the photographer when you're really in love. That's your photographer. If you like have some doubts, please just look further. Don't save the money, because you marry only once. That would be my advice to finish this episode. Thank you very much, Anna, for
Thank
your
you
time.
also from my side.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, it
No
was really a
worries, it was
pleasure.
fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.